One thing I like to do on these flags is cut them down to about, this is probably about 8 inches. You could really cut them down even smaller. But the idea is when you put them in the ground, you want them right beside the head. That way that I can aerate all the way up to here, skip the head and start right here again. If they lean over like this and they're 2 feet long, you won't really know where the head is. We're at April 26, 2022 today, getting ready to aerate the yard. Got all my sprinkler heads marked. It's one of the reasons I like to put all my edge sprinkler heads and valve boxes that I can inside my landscape beds. We're gonna be using an Aeravator today. This actually goes down in the ground, vibrates around in the ground and loosens the soil. Probably leaves some holes in the ground, sort of like a core plugger would, but it does not pull any core plugs. So it's a little different than your traditional plugger or your aerator. But we're gonna go over some of the areas because we're supposed to get a rainstorm tomorrow. I've got some places in my yard I've been driving back and forth for my renovation I'm doing on the side of the yard, hauling dirt back and forth. So I wanna get that all opened up. That way the fertilizer I put out last week and the rain can get down to the root zone. I'll try to answer a few of the big questions that I know people have that I also had whenever I first started this. And from my experiences over the last couple of years, what I've seen. So when should I do this? How often should I do it? And will it affect my pre-emergent barrier? So my situation may be a little bit different than most because I actually own the equipment, but I do like to aerate every spring. You really don't need to aerate unless you have compacted soils, but I like to aerate. I feel like it helps the nutrients and the water get down to the root zone. I feel like it holds water better and it just allows me to not run my irrigation as much. That's just what I've seen in my personal yard over the last couple of years of having the Zoysia. We're in the 3rd week of April, and I like to start my aeration about the time that the yard is greened up. And we're about 100% green up now. So we're gonna start now, and I plan to do it monthly. You definitely do not have to do it monthly, but I do see the benefit in my personal yard. Another good time that you could do it, if you didn't want to do it in the spring, is to do it right before you decide to sand level or top dress your yard. So I'm just going to share my experiences with aerating it monthly and the pre-emergent barrier, because I definitely don't want to tell you that it won't affect your pre-emergent barrier, because I really don't know. But over the last couple of years doing this monthly, I have not seen weeds pop up after an aeravation. So I run a pre-emergent program to where I put out pre-emergent in February, and I put out the rate that ideally would get me to August or September. So I'm not putting out a split application in the spring. I put it out in mid-February. I start aeravating in April, and I'll aeravate it 4 or 5 times throughout the summer, and I never have to deal with weeds in my yard. Looks like we're going down about 1 inch or 1.5 inches. That shows you how compact it can get. This area has not been aerated since it was installed last summer. Always appreciate y'all watching. If you got any questions or comments, just leave them below. This renovation is looking pretty good, really starting to thicken up. No real bare areas, just more thin areas. Got a few out here that look kind of bare, but that's just where the mower scalped them. Just a handful of broadleafs out here. That Celsius herbicide we sprayed a couple months ago really did a number on them. One thing I like to do when I finish aerating, I'll go through and pull up all these flags, but I like to run the irrigation zone and make sure I didn't damage any of these heads. That one's obviously been hit by the mower at some point. Still works fine though.